In 2 years, the world has changed. Stay-at-home orders, social distancing, and new ways of managing daily life have taught us a lot. For some of our community's more vulnerable people, it has been a time of deep isolation. Many of us here today may once have thought virtual delivery was a short-term measure to continue our work, but we've since learned that these programs and options for social connection have the potential to be so much more. The pandemic brought to the forefront the impact of social isolation on our health and well-being, but also the opportunity to create a new and better normal. Founded in 1914, the Art Gallery of Hamilton is the oldest and largest art museum in southern Ontario, with a permanent collection of over 10,000 objects and recognized as one of the finest in Canada. In the past decade, the AGH has delivered a public program focused on the power of visual art and exhibitions to enrich social connection, particularly when paired with experiential and creative learning. We've had particular success delivering programs that address specific wellness needs in communities, using the arts to support people's social, emotional, and physical well-being in meaningful ways, regardless of their abilities, circumstances, or prior experiences with art. Specifically, about 10 years ago, a new wing was being built at one of our community hospitals with a specialty unit for persons with dementia. The AGH was asked to coordinate artwork to hang in the new environment. Instead, we collaborated on a program that allowed patients themselves to choose what would hang on their walls. During this simple act of looking and discussing, we saw a move away from disease focus to the sharing of experiences. Memories were sparked, opinions, sometimes strong ones, were shared, and we saw social engagement. They were living in a moment free of dementia. We knew then there was a role for the gallery to enhance the well-being of persons in our community. The program that emerged from this experience was called Artful Moments, bringing together expertise in art and art education, with the healthcare team sharing their knowledge of the impacts of dementia and proven strategies for engagement. From the start, the program combined theme-based tours using reproductions of art in the hospital and visits to the gallery. These visits were initially thought to be nearly impossible with patients with late-stage dementia, but they were overwhelmingly successful. Evaluation focused on demonstrating engagement in our patients, measured by a number of clinical tools. While our primary research focused on engagement in the person with dementia, anecdotally we observed so much more. Experiences were shared instead of facilitated, reminiscences were sparked, and participants experienced validation, success, and engagement. I loved the interaction that I saw between loved ones, participants, and staff.
If a year ago I had been told that my husband and I would get involved with art and art galleries, I would have laughed, and my husband would have been very upset at the mere thought that someone was making fun of him. Neither he nor I had ever displayed any interest in art. Then we had several experiences. I can't explain how this made me feel. I could have cried at seeing him get some joy at doing something so totally foreign to him. I knew the memory would be mine only. The thought that someone cared enough to try and improve the quality of life of the patients affected by dementia has overwhelmed me, and I can't tell you how strongly I feel about this incredible initiative.
Since then, we've expanded work with persons in the earlier stages of dementia who are living in their own homes or a retirement community. The program combines looking and talking about art from the gallery's collection with hands-on activities over a multi-week program. We've evaluated the program for engagement and social connection, and have observed participants rekindling a love of art from earlier in their lives or discovering it for the first time. We use art as a tool to inspire conversation, sharing, and joy. The stigma or fear associated with a diagnosis or a visible disability we know shrinks one's social connections. One of the biggest health and social care challenges of the 21st century has been stated to be social isolation and loneliness. Our research demonstrated that Artful Moments was now a viable solution to this problem. When COVID hit Canada in March of 2020, we closed our doors and turned to virtual programs. My colleagues and I have always prided ourselves on our devotion to real-life, hands-on experiences with art. I had toyed with the idea of virtual programs, but only in that one day when I have nothing else to do kind of way. So the notion of a lockdown was unsettling, to say the least. And yet, Artful Moments pivoted even more successfully than we had anticipated. It was time to figure out the what and the how. What did we do really well, And how do we do it virtually? For Artful Moments, this was teasing out the core of the program and transforming it into a totally new format. The heart of the program is using art as a vehicle for meaningful engagement and social connection. Artful Moments has never been about teaching art. Instead, we have a deep focus on shared experiences. What is it about art that brings enjoyment for our participants? In some cases, it is an aesthetic experience. In others, seeing images of people and places that inspire familiarity and memory. And in still others, it is having their voices and their ideas heard and appreciated. We realized that if we could keep that, the format didn't matter. Our practical concerns. How do we ensure that everyone has the tools and resources they'll need? How long can we hold on to everyone's attention and interest? And will the technology be a barrier for participation? The first two were easy. We created art kits, available by mail or for pickup, with the materials needed for the program, as well as tour outlines, art reproductions, and activities for the days in between meetings. Typically, an in-person program lasts about 2 hours. Our hypothesis was that we needed to keep it short and sweet, about 45 minutes, but boy were we wrong. Our conversations about art were rich, highly interactive, and extensive. We saw people using their tour plans to prepare for a session, doing their own research ahead of time, to make notes or sketches as we talked, and to continue conversations at home later. Participation in the art making was varied, from observers to active art makers, to those who kept working for the whole week. Our sessions lasted 90 minutes effortlessly, and I had to end them at 2 hours on several occasions. As for the technology, we weren't sure what to expect, but in every interaction we found people who moved quickly past the strangeness of a museum program with no museum, and connected with each other eagerly. Many of our participants with dementia joined with a care partner, and where needed, the partner managed the computers. Others managed on their own. One of the wonderful things about virtual programming, we discovered, was that geography became irrelevant. In one case, a participant in Hamilton who joined with her son-in-law from home was also joined by her son and her grandson in Calgary, a shared experience that could only happen virtually. Although internet-based programming was a success, we were well aware that for many members of our community, technology was a significant barrier. Where virtual programs offered many exciting ways for people to connect, they still left many people isolated. Building on the core success, art and connection, we recognized other needs within our community and expanded our reach to try something new. Artful Moments over the phone. It sounds strange at first, but having already taken the leap into gallery experiences with no gallery, the next step of art talks with no screens wasn't such a big one. We went back to the art kits, enlarged our reproductions to full page size, and applied the same approach. The platform that I used allowed me to monitor who was speaking on my computer, and we discovered quickly that the group was comfortable being called upon to share their thoughts. I spent 8 weeks with 9 people in an outpatient program for schizophrenia, talking about art and getting to know each other over a conference call. In our focus group, participants shared that they looked forward to gathering each week and getting to know new people at a time where they were not seeing anyone in person. In the past 2 years, Artful Moments has expanded well beyond its origins. We realized that there was much in our experience that could be applied to other specialized audiences. With this in mind, we developed a program for youth and adults with autism. We adjusted the approach to suit the needs of a new audience, focusing more on art making than art appreciation, on nonverbal communication and participation options, and ensured a consistency of staff, materials, and approach. With each new program, we combine arts and clinical expertise, applying what we learned to the program design. We've learned about the unique interests and abilities of people living with mental illness, those with autism, and very young caregivers. As we look to the future, we have also begun exploratory work to create a program for people living in a palliative care hospice setting. We used a variety of evaluation strategies. For digital programs, polls at the start, middle, and end of each session tracked mood, engagement, and feelings of connection. In our phone programs, we used weekly surveys with postage-paid envelopes. For each session, observers made notes about participants' demeanors and interactions, and we used focus groups at the end to gather data. With these programs, we opted for a more informal evaluation, rather than the in-depth evaluation tools used earlier in the in-person programs, as we learned and experimented. We have since begun to work with a university to facilitate ongoing research and evaluation support, continuing to explore evaluation tools that meet our needs. Participants never meeting in person, but connected across the city and the country. In virtual programs for persons with dementia, we noticed how the participants interacted, their body language, listening and leaning into the screen for a closer look, asking me to zoom in on different aspects of the art, and making notes as we talked. We saw interactions between participants and their loved ones, as well as with the other participants, commenting on the art, asking each other questions, and making statements like, "I didn't even think of it that way," even though they were miles apart from each other. By phone, people who were initially shy about sharing began to ask each other questions and comment that they thought a certain participant would love one of the works we discussed. With our participants with autism, we communicated more in chat than out loud, but when it came time to share their artwork, screens turned on with wonderful artworks displayed with pride. Though they were miles apart, no distance separated their ability to create friendships and ease the social isolation we have all been feeling. We had a lot of fun. A great story takes place around week 5 with a group of participants with dementia. My internet dropped out, though the artwork stayed on the screen. After about 10 minutes, I was finally able to reconnect to discover that not only had the group kept on talking about the artwork on the screen, but they had used their program outlines to keep going through the next 2 artworks. I joked with them that they no longer even needed me, but in truth, it was a fantastic moment where the participants had shifted from a group of individuals talking with me to a community talking to each other and taking ownership of the program, leading it along with confidence. Our participants' words speak for themselves.
We had so much fun tonight. All 4 of my children have severe disabilities, and we participate as a family. Tina is my child diagnosed with ASD. She also has a severe intellectual disability and vision loss. When we registered, I wasn't sure if the program would be a good fit, but thought that it was worth a try. It is fabulous. Each of my children gets something different out of the program. Tina participates with hand-over-hand assistance, getting to feel the textures of the materials, engaging in a joint activity. My eldest, who has a rare genetic disorder resulting in profound intellectual and physical disabilities, loves listening to the art discussions. His muscles are stretched as we move through the activities, and he enjoys time with Mom. My 15-year-old is the one most able to express her delight in a job well done, and it allows her to be creative without having to follow the directions from a parent. We've been isolated for 431 days. Thank you for this program.
Isolated for 431 days. Just let that sink in. Yes, this program makes a difference.
I love looking at the art in that situation where there are several people sharing their ideas and spending time with a piece of work and listening to others and developing your ideas. It's a very intimate almost event. Like when you're doing that, it's the whole group thing seems to draw me back. It's that sharing has an energy that brings me back. I mean, I love looking at artworks, but to do it in a way which enhances that understanding and experience just draws me back each time. Apart from the overall atmosphere of the people who you meet and the new people who run this whole thing, it's got a lot of energy, a lot of good energy that draws it.
What brought us together was art, and I have felt I have learned so much. And as you guys have said, when I stand now in an art gallery in front of the picture, the appreciation I have is so different. And I do spend much more time in art galleries, and I search them out, and I have dragged Maureen around to go to art gallery, which is something that was never in my realm of reality. And it has given me such purpose and life to my retirement. It's been a spark.
From the other people who have participated, even when the focus has been the red hair of the characters in the painting, or the land, how the land has been represented, the trees. You also have an idea of what appeals to people. And I find that's really interesting, that everyone is drawn to something quite unique in a painting, and it brings back definite memories.
The past 2 years have been really significant for Artful Moments. With many distinct programs, a growing number of new partnerships, and the ability to present on multiple platforms, the future is full of potential. Originally, virtual delivery was meant to fill a short-term need until we could gather again in person. We're now nearly 2 years in, and we're still staying home. When all of this passes, will we return to in-person programming? Yes. Will we say farewell to virtual programs? Absolutely not. Each platform presented challenges, but also incredible benefits. We can connect to people across great distances to facilitate sharing that could never happen in real life. We can serve populations for whom access is a barrier. We can connect with people in a way that best supports their abilities and comfort. The AGH plays an active role in fostering connections, combating social isolation, and enhancing the health and well-being of our community. I will continue to offer programs over the phone. I will use internet-based programs to present themed tours of artworks that will likely never hang on the walls of the gallery at the same time. I will offer hybrid programs that start virtually but end in person with a variety of technologies in between. I can't wait to see what comes next.